So what are some of the signs men should look for to know if a woman is interested in him?
Yeah, another great question. I would say firstly, I mean, we always we speak about this a lot, but body language, is she eye contact, smiling. I'm a big like if I feel like if I like you, you're gonna see some I'm gonna be slapping your arm a little bit.
So
So
the
that's one
touch,
thing.
breaking the touch
Yeah, a little
barrier.
touch. So women do, you're gonna notice it a little bit more. She's gonna be more leaned in into you. What else do women do? They're gonna make they're gonna make an effort with you, right? So they're not gonna cancel plans last minute. Because they truly, when they do that, I feel like they're not really interested in you. With a woman, if she's really interested and invested, she's going to take the time to clear everything out with her girlfriends. Hey, I've met this amazing guy and I am going in. But with a woman, if she's not attracted to you or there's something going on, maybe she's in a relationship, I don't know, there's so many things, then she might make up excuses. And with men,
Yeah.
sometimes what they do is men stay in for a little bit too long than they should, hoping that, oh, maybe one
Yeah.
day she'll come back. But it's like, no, like she's just not interested. And another thing I would say is she's going to ask you meaningful questions, deep questions to truly get to know you. She wants to know your childhood, your personality, all of those things. So that means she really is interested and she wants to invest into you.
Yeah. I mean, many men too, Naz, they find it incredibly frustrating in the courtship phase of dating, especially when women play hard to get. It's frustrating, and guys do it too. I actually I blame the guys. I think maybe guys started this, and that's why
That's a
women
good
do it.
one.
That's what I reckon, anyways. But what should you do if a woman's playing hard to get? Should you mirror their behaviour?
Most definitely not. Do not
No.
mirror behavior that you do not like. Like that's like, do not ever let somebody else's behavior or the way they're acting affect how you show up, right? So for me, I feel like when you're mirroring behavior or you're doing this tit for tat, which I feel like a lot of coaches and social media, I feel like I keep seeing this, where it's like mirror behavior, let him chase you. It's like all of these games. Love is
It's
not,
frustrating.
is yeah,
Yeah.
there's no games in love. Like it doesn't make any sense. Um,
Yeah.
so what I would say is that if you feel like a woman is playing hard to get, again, it depends now on a lot of things. How long have you been dating? Are you guys seeing each other, or is she just like totally not messaging you? There's a lot of things, but one thing that I would recommend, and I always say this, is to set the tone, set a boundary, right? So I would send a message which basically kind of states like, hey, I really enjoy getting to know you. I really want to move forward with you, but however, I'm looking for somebody who truly wants to move forward and wants to connect. If you're not in that space, I respect that, but this is just me being clear with you. So,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on that? So it's kind of like just setting the standard, like I'm looking for somebody to connect with, and then she's gonna say, you know what, yeah, like I'm not really, into this or whatever she's gonna, open up about. And that's when you get to see her mentality, like where,
Yeah.
is she, what's going on in that mind. So yeah, that's what I would say personally.
Yeah. Have you found too, Nars, that because you did say that you know people that have met their soulmates on dating apps, but would you suggest more meeting people in person as opposed to digitally?
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I tell people to just be open minded. So don't just focus in on dating apps, meeting people. I would still suggest have a dating app, have boundaries with your dating app. Because I think the reason why people get so burnt out on it is because they're constantly on it and they're like spending 2 hours on it. And that's going to drive you insane because then if somebody
Yeah.
rejects you, again, it's going to hit your confidence, So
Yeah.
it's not that great for you mentally. So I would still have it, to be quite honest. I would probably have Hinge. Hinge is, I think, my favorite dating app,
Yep.
just based on, my clients. I see a lot of great people on there. And I would also suggest to meet people in person. That's one thing, you can focus in on meeting people in person. So I would say 80% meet people in person, and then 20% have that, you could still use your dating apps. let's say it's the
Yeah.
winter time and nobody's coming out, whatever it is, have that as a backup. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Dating apps are also interesting as well, Nas, because men aren't they they're not very successful for men. So I think if I remember correctly, women swipe right about 4% on dating apps, whilst men swipe right about 60% of the time. There was a story of a guy that apparently swiped 1 million matches, and he only got 2 dates. Because I also think that there's a larger portion of the ratio is, I think, more men on dating apps to women as
Mhm.
well. But also, like, I think a couple of things that can't be sort of portrayed through a dating app is charisma, humor, being very charming, being kind and generous. You can't show those things
For
on the
sure.
dating app. It's very much, as you said, extrinsic. It's very superficial, and yeah, you can't really see a person's personality. You don't really know them as a person. You're only
Mhm.
just seeing them, face to face. But what what do you think are some of the common mistakes guys make on dating apps? So what are some of the mistakes that you hear about? Is it just their photos, they're not very good photos, or is their biography? Like, what is it? What are the
Yeah,
mistakes that
it's
they make?
definitely those two. But another one that I would
Yeah.
say is also with men. Now, this is something that I've noticed quite a lot, is that people or men, let's talk about men, they're not portraying the truest version of themselves. So, for example, I'm going to go back to my another one of my clients just to make it just makes more sense, I think, when I say a story. But he was not going out. He didn't have any friends, didn't have anything, no life happening for himself. But then on the dating app, he was apparently traveling to like 20 countries. He was a business owner. He had all of these things happening. But then when I talked to him in person, I'm like, these are two different people. They're not aligned. So that is what I'm talking about is like you have to be your I guess being authentic is I guess it depends on a lot of different factors, but just align with who you are being right now. Don't align with the person that you were 20 years back. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I'm noticing. And I also would say oversharing and asking women out too quickly, too soon on the dating app. So, oversharing meaning when you start speaking to a woman, you start telling her about my ex, like almost like dumping. So, it kind of shows a woman that you're not really emotionally intelligent. Because then also, like, do you just share this with everybody? So again, as I always go back to, women want to feel special. So, that's one thing. And then going back to oversharing and sorry, what was my other point that I made? I said asking them too soon out on the date. So, like the other day, I was talking to this to another client, and I was looking at the messages that he was sending, and I was like, "So, what sort of questions do you ask?" Because that's my biggest thing with men; they're not really asking deep questions. So he's like, "Yeah, I asked her about her pet and about the place that she traveled, and like 2 or 3 questions, and then boom, let's go out on a date." Like, no, this is not what women really want deep questions, and she wants to make sure that when she does her hair, gets her hair done, does her face, puts a nice outfit on, that you truly are like, she's investing her time, putting her eggs in the right basket. So asking 2 or 3 questions, and then what happens is women ghost him right after
Yeah.
a while. So I'm like, you have to have depth in your conversation, and not to say that you have to ask all these serious questions at the very beginning, but just to kind of gauge where what she's really looking for, and you can really tell when you ask certain questions. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And what about when you're on the date? Like, a lot of guys sort of struggle, to ask interesting and insightful questions, some deep and meaningful questions. Yeah. Like, what are some good, icebreaker questions? Like, what are some things that guys can talk about or ask their date?
That's a good question. So on dates, one of a really good question that I recently heard and I really love it is, what is your definition of success? Because I think that does it's very it tells a lot about what she thinks success is to me. And it's funny because I actually was talking to somebody and I realized that our versions of success are not the same. For him, his version of success was money, was a private jet, was what else, he said something else that was really materialistic. But anyways, clothes and bags and all these kind of things. And to me, that's not success to me. What I find the definition of success is how at peace are you truly are when you wake up in the morning. Are you doing something that is helping people? Purposeful? Are so this is what I'm saying, is asking questions that truly get to see their mentality. And also another question that I like to ask, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this up, but I have it all in my, I do have a free guide that I do tell men to get because I have everything that I've really thought out and I've put it in there. But one other question that I would say is, because, we have those generic questions, like where do you see yourself in 5 years or whatever. But I like the question, kind of like, what was your dream as a child? And what are you doing with that right now? Like, how are you incorporating that in your life right now? So just truly seeing, is this somebody that is truly, she's really passionate about her life? That is she really doing something that she genuinely loves? So yeah, I would probably ask those two questions.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I like it. I like that. What about nice guys, Naz? Do nice guys finish last?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they finish last, but either they're going to be lonely or they're going to attract a toxic woman. So,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, they don't have boundaries,
Yes.
right? And a woman
Yes.
can't trust a man with no boundaries because if you don't have boundaries with people, then I don't know what you're doing out there. That means you don't have
Yeah.
integrity. You don't really value yourself. You don't really, I can't trust you as a man. I can't trust your leadership. So it's so many different things that a woman can't, she's not going to feel safe and secure in that relationship, which is one of the most important things that you need in a relationship. So unfortunately, nice men, and I speak to them quite a lot. I speak to men who are in relationships and I see that they're a nice guy. And unfortunately, their woman is taking advantage of them or they know that, it's a toxic relationship. They keep walking on eggshells but they keep on staying. They don't want to face the truth. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's one of the things that I would say for nice men, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you also touched on some interesting points there too, Naz, with regarding nice guys. Like I think it just does come down to boundary setting. Um, yeah, like being nice, and I think being kind and nice. Like I think being kind, be kind, but also have a backbone.
Yes.
Stand up when needed. Like the one thing that I will not tolerate if I'm in a relationship with a girl is I won't tolerate public disrespect. Like if you have a
For sure.
problem where we're not arguing in front of people, we're going to go and talk about it
Mm-hmm.
privately.
Mm-hmm.
Shaming me in public, I will not tolerate that.
Sure.
And I think it's just setting those kind of parameters initially from the start. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just being really sort of open and yeah. Do you help men? Do you help men that are considered nice guys develop a bit of a backbone? Like, what are some of the things that you try and teach them to implement into their relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. With with a nice man, well, firstly, I always try to figure out what's happened in your past. Okay. I like to go back because I always like to find the root of the problem. It's not about, okay, be confident and stand tall and all of these things that, okay, yeah, they're great. They do work. But first, we need to kind of go back in your past, see what's kind of catapulted you into being a nice person. Was your mom somebody that was maybe, because, my mom was super toxic and narcissistic. And so, I then was that nice person, and a lot of people took advantage of that. And so figuring out why is he nice? So always kind of going back into your past. And then secondly, another thing that I would say is, again, kind of figuring out who you are, what are your values, and kind of getting your identity back in check. Because a lot of nice men, they don't even know what they want. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they believe in. They're just following. They're followers. And you cannot lead in a relationship if you're not, if you're constantly following and you're changing the way that you speak in different rooms. That means, again, you don't, it goes back to integrity. So for me, I'm all about going back in your past and figuring out your truth. What is your truth? And then again, I go, there's a lot of other things, going back to role playing. Let's say you're a little bit hesitant to kind of speak up, then I'm going to be that person who's going to, we're going to mirror back each other. And men do need that sometimes, I feel like, because it's all about repetition and practicing, especially if you're somebody who's a little bit timid and you're a bit of an introvert, and you're scared of confrontation. So just
Yeah.
learning how to converse without getting super nervous about it. So,
Yes. And what about attachment styles, Naz? Like, people are sort of on this spectrum, and you might have a partner that has an anxious attachment. She likes you to call in from time to time just to see how your day's going, or then you might have a dismissive avoidant would just show up here and there, but just be off the radar for days on end. But when people come together, how can they better self-soothe themselves, reassure themselves that the relationship's okay, but how can they come together to help one another? If you have an anxious attachment and an avoidant attachment, like what are some of the strategies that you would implement?
yeah, great question again. The first thing I would say is when you're in a relationship, you have to communicate about, again, your past, right? So I have a bit of an avoidant attachment. And this was me, by the way. I had a bit of an avoidant, disorganized attachment style. So making sure that we are able to communicate that to one another. And then we need to also ask each other, like, hey, can you help me out with this? Especially if somebody is like, avoiding that topic. You need to understand, okay, this is somebody who is a bit avoidant. So what can I do in this case? With an avoidant, they basically are fearful of closeness, right?
Yeah,
They want their independence. So making sure that, okay, he needs his space right now. Let me just give it to him, right? And also helping each other through it, helping each other heal and working on it personally. But this definitely happens quite a lot where the avoidant tends to attract the anxious. And
yeah,
again, if you again go back, I like to go back again a little bit, is this usually tends to happen because these attachment styles have been created as a child. So
yes,
how your mother kind of attached to you is what you are basically seeking out in your relationships, right? So if your mother kind of she was somebody who was she kind of abandoned you, when you were a child, then you tend to kind of you kind of seek that in your relationships as well, right? But then
yeah,
it kind of hurts you in the long run. So the first thing I would say is communication, and then make sure what do you both need, right? Like the anxious needs soothing, like you just mentioned. So they need to figure out ways when they're getting into that, that phase of like, I need a lot of love, la la la. Try to soothe yourself and work on yourself. So definitely a bit of
yeah.
awareness and communication.
Yeah, yeah. I had a bit of anxious attachment a long time ago, and it required a lot of work, just to
Hmm.
sort of, to really sort of hone in and work out what was going on, because that stems from childhood. Um, so, what are the steps that someone needs to do to fix their attachment style or their issue? Like, how do they work on themselves? How do they? Because I think you mentioned meditation and journaling. These are great tools, yeah, to implement.
100%. Yeah, meditate. Well, firstly, again, I mean, it's always about figuring out why you are the way that you are. So, what is causing you to have this anxious attachment style or avoidant? And then I would say healing that, right? So healing, as I said, is a very different person to person. Some people might need 1 year of work on themselves. Other people might need 3 months and then they're good to go in the next relationship. So really figuring out, um, it depends person to person. But after you figure out why it's happened, you need to kind of get into, as I mentioned, getting in alignment with your soul. So really figuring out what you truly, I would kind of say, yeah, meditation is one of the biggest ones because that is where you can kind of regulate your nervous system. Because a lot of the times, why we get dysregulated or we have this anxious attachment style is because our nervous system is dysregulated. So there's a lot of different things that you do in the morning time, which is what I always recommend my clients have a morning routine. Spend that 20 minutes, 1 hour. Like my routine is an hour and a half. It's really long, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, so I really love, and that's one of the reasons why I've been able to do what I do because I was somebody who was super, depressed, anxious, nervous. I couldn't even walk on the street. Like it was really bad. And also another big one I would say is subliminals. Subliminals has changed my life. So playing the subliminals at nighttime to reprogram your subconscious mind, because majority of these problems that we have in our mind is a belief that stems from childhood. So figuring out what is this belief. Like avoidant attachment style might have a different belief and an anxious attachment style might have a different belief, right? So just making sure that we are reframing that belief is really key. So it's like, I'm not enough to I am enough. I am worthy. I'm lovable because I'm lovable. So constantly saying those things to yourself over and over, like is like crazy the amount of times that I say these things to myself, right? And that is why I'm able to be whole and complete. But if I
Yeah.
kind of go back into my old patterns, I do have some negative thoughts that come back up. So that's one thing that my main focus, if you're somebody that is healing your attachment style, is getting back into your house, your home, which is
Yeah.
yourself, your soul, and your identity, and your nervous system. That is one of the biggest reasons why we get dysregulated. And also another big one is choosing the right partner, because a lot of times we're choosing a partner who is gonna make us feel bad for our
Yeah.
attachment style, and that is not fair. That is just our style, and we are trying to heal it. So finding somebody that is open to heal it with you instead of making you feel like crap for, having this anxious attachment style.
Yeah, that's so true. Choosing the right partner. So selection
Yeah.
processes, that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should men pay on the first date?
Yeah. Again, so many people say so many different things. I believe even if the woman asks for the date, a man should pay for the date. That's just what I think is just a gentlemanly thing to do, and I feel like chivalry and gentlemanliness is a little bit on the downfall.
It
So
is. Yeah.
if you're looking for a woman, if you want to, if you're like, this is a woman I really really enjoy to be with, and I want to invest, I suggest to pay for the date. If you don't want to be with
Yeah.
her, then maybe don't pay. I mean, that's a little bit selfish, I think. I mean, you should pay
Yeah.
regardless. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if you want relationships, if you want love, you have to be generous. And I know men will not probably like that. But that's just what I think. The first date, and again,
Yeah.
there's so many different things. If you consistently see a pattern where she's not offering to pay, she's not really, like even getting a wallet out or something, that is a red flag. And that is when, again, you got to bring it up instead of avoiding it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think also, yeah, guys are hesitant paying because they don't want to be taken advantage
For
of.
sure.
Um, like, and I think it's not so much that if a woman pays, it's the gesture, it's the lack of gesture. Like if a woman doesn't actually show
Mm-hmm.
appreciation or they don't say thank you,
Mm-hmm.
or it has nothing to do with money. It comes down
Got
to the
it.
lack of gesture.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the miss or the disconnection with that. Yeah, because I speak to a lot of guys, Nars, and they, of course, they're happy to pay. Me personally, I'm happy to pay everything.
Nice.
But as long as it's appreciated, it's that. and if it's an unreciprocated sense of self-worth. So what I mean by that is just you don't want to be taken advantage of, but there also needs to be that reciprocation from the other person. That's what it's all about. Yeah, and as I was saying before, what do men want to do more of when they're feeling appreciated? They want to do more and more. Yeah, yeah. So this can be super frustrating, but why do women sometimes pull away when things are going really well in a relationship?
Yeah, they pull away because they fear vulnerability. So they're scared if they open up too much, then, and if it doesn't work out, then you can hurt them. Right. And this, unfortunately, is a pattern maybe in their life that they haven't probably looked at. They're not really healing that wound that they have. And they're bringing that emotional baggage into the relationship, into the partner when you're dating that person. And so one of the reasons I would say is fear of vulnerability. Women tend to do this. Actually, there's another reason. The other reason is is emotional investment. They're testing emotional investment. So what this means is that, and again, this sometimes, as you just mentioned back a couple, I guess a little while ago, that women sometimes they're unsure of your investment. They don't know if you're really into them. So they're going to pull away a little bit to see if you're genuinely interested.
Yeah.
And so the women do tend to do this for
Yeah.
sure.
Some people call them shit tests. Have you heard of that?
It sounds like a shit test, so I get it.
Yeah, it's because it's shit. I think women like to test a man's masculinity. They want to see if there's any chinks in his armor, but it can be very frustrating for guys too, because as I was talking about earlier, like that question that I asked Sean, who was the dating and relationships coach. I said to him, why do people sabotage relationships, even though there are a lot of green flags? You could be the most loving, caring, kind, supportive, emotionally intelligent person, and yet, people will sabotage that. And it can be very frustrating for guys too, especially when a woman pulls away. But I think, as you were talking about, it stems, I think it goes back to, one, setting boundaries. Say, hey, look, I'm not too sure how you were raised, but this is how I raised, this is my values and things like that, and just articulating your point of view. But yeah, it can be so frustrating, and I wish there's no fucking roadmap for dating. There really isn't. There's no like they don't teach you this stuff in school. You have to figure this stuff out. It's long, it's arduous, it's painful. And I mean, love is pain, yeah? I mean, it really is. Sometimes it can be painful. But what do you think is the reason behind women testing men in relationships? So if we call them shit tests, as you mentioned, they just want to see your interest level and see how interested you are. But is it also just testing a man's masculinity? Is he going to be a good provider? Is he going to be a protector? Is he going to be able to be a good dad? I want to make sure he's a safe bet, because if I do decide to bear his children, I want to make sure he can regulate his emotions. And, this might be why women test men. What do you think?
Again, I really think it depends on, I need to see the situation of why, what's happening,
Yeah.
because sometimes I feel like also, women, what's that saying? Like women are from Mars and men are from Pluto or whatever. Like
Something like that, yeah.
we perceive things different, like women are seeing different things. And when men might have a different, they might articulate things a little, they might see things in a different way. So I need to first see what's happening, because every situation is so different. But I personally think that she could have seen signs where she was like, as you just mentioned, it could be a bit of masculinity, it could be a bit of, is he really committed? Or another thing is that sometimes men tend to say things, great things, just to get something out of you. And this has happened to me quite a lot, unfortunately, where I'm like, and one thing I learned about dating is like, stop talking. Like you can talk, but I'm somebody who tells you everything. I tell you exactly what to do to get me, which is not the way to go. You should actually, it's good to communicate, but what I do is I will tell you like I want a man who's spiritual, and then what is he gonna do? He's gonna be spiritual. He's gonna like, yeah, I'm God fearing and all of these things. And then later down the line, you realize, oh wait, he kind of is a bit of a liar, and like things are not aligning. So honestly, it could be a lot of different things. Either she could just not be interested in you, and she's instead of confronting, is also you need to realize like women, a lot of the times when women confront men and they say, I don't like this about whatever, men tend to get a little bit aggressive, or they tend to say, hey, you're a slut anyways, or whatever. They get a little bit angry about it. So then women, sometimes they don't want to be upfront and honest. And speak their truth in dating because they're like, okay, well, it's just been a week anyways. Like, why do I have to give him a full and honestly, that's happened to me once. I did it once. I mean, it's a long story, but basically, like, I was speaking to a guy and he was like on a phone. It was one call, like a really while back. And he was like, I know this is like, has nothing to do with this, but I'm just going to say it anyways. And he was like, I really like you. Like, I want to be exclusive with you. And I was like, this is the first call. Like, how can I be? There were so many red flags popping that I never spoke to him ever again. Like, this is ridiculous. And then he was sending me his children's pictures and all these other things that kept coming up. And I was like, this is, it felt a bit stalkerish. So this is what I'm saying is like sometimes women, they might be afraid to say something. And I think for a woman to see if you're truly masculine and you're emotionally intelligent, I really hope that this is not the test she's using, because you literally are going to find out nothing about the man. What you're really going to find out is when you're going through a tough time or you're emotional, and then you see, okay, how is he handling it? What is his coping mechanism? So this technique, if a woman is doing it, it's not working. It's not going to tell you anything about a man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
No, yeah, no, definitely, no, 100%. Do you think men are intimidated by a woman's success and independence? So there's an interesting stat, Naz, that men in a committed relationship, if their partner out-earns them financially, he's 50% more likely to use erectile dysfunction medication. Which is mind-boggling. I'm not too sure if you've heard of that. Yeah, so, and I don't mean men are intimidated by a woman's success as in like, oh my God, that's so scary, It's more in the sense, I guess, it can create problems because, as I said, men are having a difficult time in the world feeling needed. They don't feel wanted. They don't feel needed anymore. This is why men are opting to not even pursue women anymore. They just don't feel needed. And this shows, I mean, this shows also not just on dating apps, but 80% of women draw their attention to the top 20% of men.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you have a large cohort of women all chasing the top 20% of men. And then you've also got a large portion of men at the bottom, which are completely invisible. That don't get any attention whatsoever. The guys that the women are chasing after, your Andrew Tates, your Dan Bilzerians, your high status celebrities, Chris Browns, things like that. These guys, the super high value guys, have a wealth of options. They have the pick of the litter. They can just, do whatever. And unfortunately, they tend to use and discard some of these women. The women that date the guys at the top end up resenting all men, and then you have a large portion of men down the bottom that are just completely invisible and say, hang on, I'm not anything like those guys. You haven't even seen me. I haven't even had a chance with you. But yeah, like it's difficult. I find it very, very difficult, especially for the average guy. But what about independence and success? Do you think men are intimidated by a woman's success and independence?
I don't think so. I can go so many different ways, to be quite honest. With, to be honest, there's some men out there, let's just be real. I mean, I've been with some that are a bit insecure. So that person, one of my exes, I guess, whenever I try to shed my light, he try to dim it down. He try to make me feel small. And so this is what I'm saying is that he might have this insecurity within him that if I shine my light, then he's not gonna get the attention that he needs. So I'm gonna be honest, there are men like that. But I feel like a man that is truly secure in his worth. This is why I always go back to women are looking for secure men that know they're worthy, that know they're enough. So if you have a man that is, yes, he might be short. He might not have be the richest man in the world or whatever, but he has a personality. He's funny because I know one of the biggest things that men come to me with, where women only like tall men, but I'm like, I've been on dates with shorter men than me, and they're not a millionaire, And I actually find men, I don't know what it is, but it's like. I mean, I probably do know what it is, but men that are attractive, and because I speak to them all day long, men that are attractive, they have $1 million business, whatever, they have fancy cars, they're tall, attractive, all of this kind of things, but I don't find them attractive. You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah,
they, just gonna be honest, they ask me out for dates or whatever, dinner, coffee, and I don't find them attractive because I need depth in the relationship, right? So it's like really knowing, figuring out the value for the man, knowing what he brings to the table. Because a lot of the times we're so stuck on where we need to measure ourselves as men. We're like, Chris Brown's here and I'm down here, so I'm never going to find a woman. And yes, there are stories where men are struggling, and I'm not going to ever, dismiss that. And yes, it is difficult, as you mentioned. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm always going to say this, is focus on what's good about you. Focus on your value. Focus on what you're able to bring to the table. If you have a good
yeah,
personality and you're funny, and you dress well, you smell good, you have for me, eye contact is big. Like if you have
yeah.
eye
That is.
contact, that is sexy to me. Other things we can work on. But again, I'm a different woman. Like I'm
Yeah,
different and other women are different, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
So women are now out achieving men. Nars. There are 2 women for every 1 man completing a 4-year US college degree. Women on average in the UK between the ages of 21 and 29 earn 1,111 more pounds than their male counterparts.
Right.
78% of women say that a stable job is something important for a partner to have. Women, as I said, are more concerned with a partner's socioeconomic status, significantly more than men are. If you have a world where women are attending university at higher rates and more successful in employment than men are, at least between the age gap between 21 and 29, is most people are perhaps looking for potential partners. And yet, a big detriment for a woman's attraction, not all women, but most, is a partner's socioeconomic status. Where's he going? His ambition? Is he going to be able to provide? You know, and unfortunately, I think too, as women sort of climb up through their own hierarchy and competence, they further shorten down the pool of eligible men. There's
Mm-hmm.
just not enough of these guys to go around.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is you start to see more casual dating. You start to see women sharing men. Which is crazy. But I also read another stat. Actually, I think I might have put it in here too. And this is just insane. It was, if I still can find it. Yeah. So the average man between the age of 18 to 30 in the US spent 2,000 hours playing video games and watching porn. So, from an attraction point of view, that is not a good predicator of a stable person. So, what has a guy got to do to really stand out, to become more appealing and more attractive to the opposite sex?
Oh, that's a big one. I mean, stop watching porn and stop playing
Yeah.
video games. It's very simple. Yeah. So, sorry, what was the question again? How to be more attractive? Sorry, say that again. You
How
said
can
it so
how can a
well.
man be more how can a man be more attractive? So, and I think also it shouldn't, and this goes back to what you were saying before too, Naz. It should be intrinsically studied as well. What are my values? Who am I as a person? Am I kind? Am I
Hmm.
generous? Am I caring? And I think we, properly vetting, but also I think, as you mentioned, just keep it simple. A guy, be well groomed, have a shower, make sure you're not smelly. But also, like, just being able to be a good conversationalist. Some
Yes.
guys are socially awkward and
Hmm.
get nervous on dates, and they
Hmm.
might mumble their words. But
Hmm.
what would you suggest for a guy to become more appealing to women? Should he hire a dating coach, as you said? Hire a dating coach. Should he, dive into entrepreneurship? Should he start a business? Learn the trips and the trades of what it takes to run a business. Because you're going to learn skills. It's all about people. 80% of business, I think, is people. But what can guys do? What are some of the things that they can do to maybe be more, captivating from a woman's perspective?
Yeah, that's another great question. For me, it's all about your purpose. As a man, you need to know what your purpose is. Because
Yes.
for a leader, if I'm going to follow a leadership, because a lot of women, what they do as well, this is another topic, but women want to trust your leadership. And in order for me to trust your leadership, I need you to have a purpose. I want to do this in the world. I want to start a business. Whatever it is that you want to do. It doesn't have to be following a man, following steps. Like, it doesn't have to be any of that. It's just is like, do something that your soul came here to do in the world. And so from a woman's perspective, I find that, and women find that super attractive when a man has direction, he has goals. And sorry, I had to bring up this point about porn because you brought it up. And I
Yeah,
actually, because
it's
I'm
really
creating a,
bad. It's
yeah, I'm
really
creating a
bad,
course, and
Nas.
I
Yeah,
had it. I had one that one. It was one of my main points with which men are not going to like. But there's so if you go do the proper like do the research on porn, the amount of effects, and I want to be brutally honest, I watch porn, right? So I had to work on that myself. But there's so many studies that shows that when you watch porn, it actually is a reflection, or kind of it relates to impotence, or you're not attracted to your partner anymore. Sorry, my words messed up. You're not attracted to your partner because you're seeing so much on the screen that when you see
yeah,
her, you start comparing. There's so many downsides to porn, and it does really affect relationships. And I hear about it all the time where men are saying, "I'm not attracted to my partner, but I don't know what to do. I haven't, I'm sleeping with her for 3 years, but I'm too scared to say anything." I'm like, what? Like, I would. If a man ever came to me and said, "I'm not attracted to you," and I've been sleeping, like, that would literally be such a betrayal. Because to me,
yeah,
like, okay, anyways, that's a whole different story. But basically, what I was getting to was, oh, how can a man be? Yeah, so don't watch porn. Find your purpose. Um, Invest time. Actually, no, forget the investing time. Have a routine. Okay, that's one thing that I would say for men. Like, we always think about the big steps, like start a business, do this, but it's like, for me, success comes when you make little improvements each day. So it
yeah,
doesn't have to be, get a dating coach and do this. I mean, that would be great. That would be really amazing for you. It will actually get you there faster, 100%. Because what a coach does is, I'm going to mirror back to you your procrastination, because a lot of people say, yeah, I'll get there, I'm going to do it, I'm going to see, and then another 10 years pass by and you haven't done anything. But yeah, so basically I would say is a morning routine. If you want a proper answer, have purpose, stop watching porn, and have a morning routine. Wake up at 5 a.m. Okay, connect with yourself. It could be meditation, journaling, and I know some men will say, I don't need to do that. I don't tend to agree. I think you need to find somewhere where you're able to switch off the social media and the screens and just connect with yourself. Because
yeah,
I'm a person, I'm super spiritual. I believe that God is all within us. And so you need to listen, not even to God, but just your higher self, and there's so many, there's so many ideas, there's so many things happening around you that you're missing because you're too busy just rushing through life. And I need to go to work, I need to, make this amount of money, whatever these things, which I get it, because as men, you guys have been programmed to provide, and I understand that. But I would suggest, do, have a morning routine and do one or two things each day that is going to push you to your goal, to your purpose. So
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I love that, Naz. I think, and I think purpose is it's thriving, it's motivating, like it's what gets us up in the morning.
for
And
sure.
I think that's the reason why a lot of men are just feeling disconnected is because they don't have purpose. That, as I said, they're just finding a really difficult time feeling needed in the world. And as I said, like, men, I think, just want to feel appreciated. And, it's true. The only time a man will receive flowers is at his funeral. I can count a handful of compliments, some significant compliments that people have said to me in the past. I can remember them very well. And I'm sure it's different for women. Women are obviously constantly bombarded with compliments on social media and in the world and
For
through their
sure.
friends. But the average guy just doesn't get any appreciation or compliments. So I think we still have a bit of work to do in that sense.
For
I think
sure.
men and women need to come together, and we're a team, and we raise a beautiful family, and
Yeah.
that's how society's always run. But where can people find you, Naz? So you're on the socials, you're on Instagram and TikTok, and you got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, a couple different things. So I
Yeah,
have Instagram, which is Dating Coach Naz. So Instagram, also my YouTube, same username, Dating Coach Naz. LinkedIn, I mean, that's for people that are on LinkedIn. You could definitely find me there. And TikTok as well. I'm not too active on there, so I would probably focus on my YouTube and
yeah.
my Instagram. But yeah.
And what do guys need to do if they want to book a call with you? Should they just DM you or go via the website
Yeah,
or?
that's a good question. I have a link on both on my YouTube or on my Instagram. So you can click on the link. It says book a free strategy call. So I do offer 30-minute free audio calls. Some men get intimidated. That's okay. We're gonna have a nice conversation, create a nice plan for you. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to change the world.
Amazing, Naz. Yeah. And do you think you'll sort of branch off a little bit, maybe into couples therapy? Do you think you might like to maybe do that in the future?
I thought about it because I did get couple offers, to be honest. But yeah, for now, I think I want to. I'm good one on one.
Yeah. So predominantly just working with men, or you're happy to work with women as well?
I do work with women as well, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. But I'm
Yeah.
focusing just on men for now. But yeah, I do have, as I said, I have women clients all the time. So
Yeah, amazing, Naz. Naz, I could talk to you all day about dating and relationships.
same.
It's a fascinating topic. A lot of people really like the idea of love, and we've all been in love. We've been there. We've been heartbroken. We've had our atrocities and tragic events, and it sucks. But this is the whole thing of life. It's
Sure.
just molded people into who we are today. But it's a fascinating topic. I find it very, very interesting. But no, I wanted to thank you again for jumping on the podcast, Naz. It was a good
Thank
talk. It was a good
you.
conversation.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Naz.